So we're going to start lying down in a comfortable position. Just noticing where in your body you're breathing into. Can you feel your breath in your chest, your belly, maybe even your back? Taking a nice deep inhale now, sending that breath down into your belly, and as you exhale, sighing out of the mouth, let your body start to fall into the ground. This feeling of putting the weight down, like you're putting a bag of groceries down on the floor. Let all the heaviness, holding, be fully released. Starting to breathe now in through the nose and out through the nose. Slow in the inhale and slow in the exhale. Noticing all of the sounds around, outside of the room. Maybe you can hear cars, you can hear people speaking, moving in the building. Slowly breathing into the abdomen. Slowly breathing out through the nose. Maybe starting to feel a sense of unwinding in the body. Noticing any areas where you're gripping, maybe around the shoulders, the hips, the neck, jaw, the mouth, the eyes. These are the most common places to be gripping or holding tension, maybe hands. Every exhale, feel a sense of releasing. Slow inhale, long exhale. Starting to bring your full awareness now into the body. Awareness on the breath, sensations, softening your mind. You're not used to practicing any form of relaxation, Take a little while to understand what that might mean, softening your mind. Just noticing any thoughts that are coming in to distract you, anything that might be playing a bit on repeat, catching it or noticing it, and then bringing your awareness back to your breath, back to the sensations you can feel in your body. Allow yourself to feel a sense of being suspended in this moment. Your next inhale, taking an even deeper breath, starting to reach your hands up overhead. Maybe pointing your toes, taking a full body stretch, let your ribs rise, maybe even scrunching your shoulders up towards your ears. Pushing through the left foot, feel how the hips move. Right hip in towards the waist. And then pushing through the right foot, feel the left hip lifting towards the left rib cage. Bringing both legs along, even on the mat. Sliding your feet up so that the knees are pointing up. We're going to take the hands down by the sides. Rolling your shoulders back behind your chest so you have the sense of openness across the front of the chest. Just very gently looking over the right shoulder. And then over the left shoulder. Bringing the nose back up to the ceiling, feeling the back of the head on the mat. We're just going to push the back of the head into the mat. Can you feel the back of the neck lengthen and then soften? Taking your hands onto your pelvis. So I'd like you to be able to feel the shape of the bones of the pelvis. So you're kind of making a triangle with the hands, thumbs together, fingers together. Your fingers are going to be over your pubic bone or thereabouts, and the heels of the hands, just where the first finger and thumb meet, are going to be on your hip points, so those little bony bits at the front. As you inhale, please send your hips away from your ribs. We're going to breathe in through the nose. As you exhale, blowing out through softly pursed lips, like you've got a straw in your mouth. So we're breathing in through the nose, hips move away from ribs, you're arching your back. You're breathing out through the mouth, hips roll in towards the ribs, and the lower back closes on the mat. So just very gentle rocking forward and back. So forward, the pubic bone points down between the legs and then back in towards you. Your pubic bone is almost trying to come up towards your nose or your chest. Keep your tailbone on the mat. Keep your knees in alignment with your hips. You can imagine just the base of your spine rolling forwards and back. We're going to bring the pelvis into a neutral position. If you're not too sure what that is, if you're quite new to Pilates, you can just have a little look. We're going to find our pelvis with a flat triangle. So neutral means that the pubic bone and the hip points are level. You are going to have maybe a slight curve into the lower back, but we're not like this. And we're also not pushing the back into the mat and letting the pubic bone point up towards the ceiling. You want to feel that little bit of a shelf at the back of the pelvis, that kind of heavy piece. It should feel a little bit secure, but also almost like you could teeter either direction, forward or back. And then feeling your hips. If you want to look up towards the pelvis, notice if one hip is tilting to one side or the other, and see if you can just correct that. You might want to even wiggle your hips side to side, and then bring them into a level position. Taking a breath into your belly again, keeping your hands here below your belly button. Feel your belly muscles expanding between the hips. As you exhale, we're going to take a little short, sharp breath out. Can you feel those muscles jumping? Everyone feel that? Yes? Brilliant. These are the muscles that we're targeting today. Most important muscle, the transverse abdominis, or we call them our lower tummy muscles. So we're going to take a breath into belly. Now as you exhale, blowing out, I want you to engage the muscles rather than it being an automatic engagement. Instead of the breath creating it, you're doing it. Inhale, soften, relax. Exhale, engage. Inhale, relax. Exhale, engage. We're going to add in the pelvic floor, which is a muscle that runs between the legs. And it's that same feeling of when you're stopping yourself going to the toilet. Inhale, soften pelvic floor, lower abdominals. Exhale, engage pelvic floor, lower abdominals. Inhale, soften. Exhale, zipping up. Now feel the sensation of drawing in and up from the base of the body. One more like this. Exhale, zipping up. We're going to keep that sense of engagement. Just want to make sure that no one is kind of squeezing, so it's not a maximum engagement, it's just soft, light, zipped up. Like you've got a pair of slightly tight trousers on, not too tight. Take your hands up towards the very base of your rib cage. So just so you can feel the base of the ribs, the last rib. Check, are your ribs sticking up towards the ceiling? See if you can think about bringing them down towards the hips, like you're closing that gap at the front. Keeping the spine nice and long without moving the pelvis. We're going to start breathing into the back and sides of the rib cage. So if you just keep one hand below your belly, so that you can feel those lower abdominal muscles. Your other hand, if you want to look, can either come here to the side or it can wrap across so that your whole arm can feel the ribs. You're going to breathe into the back and sides of the ribs, not into the belly. So you're keeping that lovely zipped up sensation and you're breathing softly into ribs. If you're still breathing into belly and you're taking quite a big breath in, just take a smaller breath. A little sip in, a little puff out. If you think about taking a really big breath, well, where else is the breath going to go? It's going to have to push down and make space down in the lower abdomen. So if we soften the breath a little bit, then we don't need to disengage our lower tummy muscles. Does that make sense? If you are finding that the breath is just confusing you, don't worry too much about it, especially if you're new. It'll come over time. So relaxing your hands down by your sides. We want to keep this set up the whole time, okay? So pelvis neutral, lower abdominals, pelvic floor engaged, ribs down to hips, nice long spine. Make a little fist with your hand. We're going to just check if the head is in the right position. So you're going to take the base of your fist to that little scoopy bit where the two collarbones meet. And then just notice, is your chin touching the top of your hand or not? If it's not, you want to lengthen the back of the neck and bring your chin to touch it. If there's no space, then lift the chin a little bit so you can get it in. We're going to imagine that you're placing a peach here underneath your chin and you need to hold it there as we move through our exercises. Taking the shoulders down and back and then just softening the shoulder blades on the mat. We're going to keep the lower abdominals engaged, keep the ribs down towards the hips, and keep breathing into ribs, floating your hands up towards the ceiling. Imagine you're holding a big ball between the hands. The elbows are nice and soft. As you exhale, keeping the lower abdominals engaged, keeping the ribs down, bring your right hand back behind your head and your left hand down. Now we're not looking for a stretch, we're looking to just move the arm. Imagine you're like a Barbie or a wooden doll. Think about the arm bone, the top of the arm bone, just gliding, rotating in the socket of the shoulder. We're inhaling through center, exhaling to scissor the arms in opposite directions. The focus here is on keeping the ribs down towards the hips and keeping the shoulders away from the ears. We want to keep the shoulder blades nice and soft on the mat. If this feels okay, we'll inhale, both hands come back through center, hold that ball. Now imagine the ball has just gotten a little bit heavy. As you exhale, smooth, glide the hands just out of sight behind your head. Can you feel that your ribs are trying to lift off the mat, the back of the rib cage? Keep drawing it down. Inhale, hands back up to ceiling. Exhale. Hands back, shoulders down, ribs down. Inhale, shoulders come back up. So I want you to move really, really slowly. Let the breath initiate the movement. And notice those subtle, small feelings in the body. If you really pay attention, you can feel a little bit of a pull. Ribs are trying to lift. Back of the body is slightly bending. You can feel it in your muscles. So you want to just draw in a little bit more with the lower abdominals, a little bit more engagement. We're going to add on exhale, hands come behind the head. Turn the palms to face away from one another. Inhale, circling the hands wide. Make sure you don't drink around you, not find over. So then palms are facing your hips. We're exhaling, hands back. Passing that ball behind you, releasing it. Inhale, circling the hands wide. Exhale. And inhale. Notice those little micro movements. The torso is trying to move. We're going to use the abdominal engagement to keep everything nice and steady and stable. Start to realize how heavy your limbs are when you do Pilates. Making this your last one. Hands down by the sides, palms facing down. Keep that sense of width across the chest. Inhale, nod your head. You're just going to look to your belly. As you exhale, float the hands off the mat and reach your ribs towards your hips. So just the tops of the shoulders are peeling off the mat. Keep that peach underneath your chin. Inhale, breathing into ribs. Exhale, peeling back down. Inhale, nod. Exhale, reach fingertips to heels, ribs to hips. Don't move your pelvis. Inhale, breathing into ribs. And exhale, peeling back down. If you're feeling tension in the neck and the shoulders, you can take your hands behind your head. Just make sure that you're not pulling your head up with your hands, but you're still using the abdominals to move. Make sure that the back of the pelvis is staying nice and heavy on the mat. You imagine there's a rope tying your tailbone into the ground. When you look up, so really use your sight. You look up first, keep that same exact space. So what we don't want is, what happens a lot of the time, you nod and then you come up and you puff. We don't want to push down and we don't want to roll the pubic bone to the nose. Is everyone feeling that in the abdominals? Yeah. Making this your last one. Taking a breath into ribs as you exhale, zipping back up again, hands onto your hip points. So we're going to here try and keep the hips completely level. We're not going to let them rock side to side. As you exhale, just tipping your right knee out to the side. Don't let your hips move. Inhale, slowly smooth back to center. If you've got a lot of clicking, crunching in the hips, think about drawing up a little bit more through the pelvic floor. Really slow here. If your left leg's kind of wobbling as the right knee moves out to the side, that's an indication that the pelvis is moving a little bit. It's trying to help stabilize. Really slow, small movement, controlling from those lovely internal muscles. Just one at a time, right leg, left leg, stay still. Switching over to the other side, noticing if this is harder to control, easier to control. Is the movement different in any way? Does it kind of stagger, or is it a little bit smoother? It's quite common to have imbalances in the hips and the pelvis each side. 3 more here. Releasing, taking the heels underneath the knees. So you just want to make sure that your feet aren't too far forward. And checking that the center of the knee is in alignment with those hip points. So feel for the bones. We're not talking about the outsides of the hips. Toes pointing forward. Hands down by the side, take an inhale into ribs as you exhale, scooping in through the lower abdominals, roll your hips into your ribs. Can you feel your lower back nice and flush against the mat? Inhale, pelvis back to neutral. So it's really small, have a look if you're not sure. Exhale. I'm activating internally to create this roll. I'm not pushing into my feet, I'm not squeezing my glutes or my hips. I roll it in, it looks small, but you're going to feel it internally. We're going to roll up through the spine. So we initiate scooping in, hips into ribs. Then please start to push into your feet, picking up the tailbone, the lower back, the mid back, coming up onto the shoulders. We want to be in a long line from the knees to the hips, to the ribs, to the shoulders. So keep zipped up through the abdomen, keep your ribs drawn down towards your hips. Inhale, breath into ribs, exhale, very slowly peeling down. Imagine you are setting a string of pearls down on a table, one pearl at a time. Call this spinal articulation. We're trying to create as much movement through the vertebra of the spine as we can. Inhale at the bottom, pelvis comes to neutral. Exhale, scooping in, rolling up. Even pressure through both feet. Keep your toes in the mat. Notice if any area in the back feels a little bit stuck, almost like you're missing a piece, or like you're just coming up in one flat line. See if you can draw in a little bit more through the lower abdominals and slow the movement down if you do have any of these areas. If this feels good and you want to add on a little bit more coordination, exhale, lift the hands as you roll up. Keep the shoulders away from the ears, chest open. You can even take the hands just behind the head to challenge the abdominals, ribs stay towards the hips. So don't come into a big back bend, don't let the ribs lift. Inhale, hands back up to the ceiling, exhale, peel down. Imagine you're trying to push your knees straight forward as you come up and down. Keep pushing into the ball of the big toe, the baby toe, and the heels. Moving with your breath, we're always exhaling to come up. Continue with the hands behind. Inhaling, hands back up to ceiling. Exhale, peeling down, hands float down by the sides. Can you feel the backs of the legs activated? Last one. We're gonna lift and hold. If you're not feeling super stable, you can push your hands into the mat, hands face down. Then we're gonna exhale, peeling up through the right heel. We're gonna keep the hips steady. And then peel back down. Exhale left, inhale, peel back down. I'm going to keep those hips really steady. If you're not sure if they're moving, you can bend your elbows and just lightly place your hands on the hip points. Keep scooping in pelvic floor, lower abdominals. Keep that long line through the front of the body. One heel lifts, then the other. You're going to feel your glutes, your backs of your legs, your calves fire up. Lovely. One more each side. Finish with the left heel lifted. Heel back down. Exhale. Heel down slowly. This one should feel like the best one. Release the legs, give them a little wobble. Lengthen them away. Feet back onto the mat, knees up. Pushing your hands into the mat as you exhale, zipping up through the abdominals. Take a breath into ribs and then exhale. Lift the right leg to tabletop and then the left. If you feel that your pelvis is heavy and kind of drawing away from your ribs, you've got an arch in your back, so you're pinching in the back, that probably means that the pelvis is not staying in neutral. So keep it slightly rolled in towards the hips. Can you feel how heavy your legs are? Exhale, we're going to tap the right toes down. Inhale, lift back up. Exhale, tap. Inhale, lift back up. Really push the hands into the mat if you need that extra bit of support. It will help to deepen the abdominal engagement. Brilliant. Use the breath. As we exhale, the abdominals naturally contract a little bit more. If this feels okay, you can exhale, extend one leg in the diagonal. Make sure your pelvis is staying steady, not rocking back and forth. Bend the knees. Take your hands onto the tops of the knees, just let the weight of the legs go. Some circles with the ankles in one direction. And keep the legs in tabletop. Take the hands behind the head. Inhale, nod. Exhale, sliding upwards to hips. Inhale, hold. Exhale, releasing back down. Make sure shoulders are away from ears and you can see your elbows in your peripheral vision. Continue. Last one. Release the head, release the legs. Take a full body stretch, let your ribs rise. Take a breath into belly. Help ourselves to seated. Taking the feet lock on the mat. Feel your sit bones in the mat. So we feel those kind of bony points. Lengthen up through the spine. Knees don't have to be completely straight, they can be slightly bent. I want your toes please pointing towards the ceiling. Get that sense of zipping up from underneath you. Okay, so the spine's nice and long. Imagine you've got a big heavy ball on your lap. We're going to inhale, lengthen. As you exhale, coming up and over that ball. So what we're not doing is this. So you can't squash the ball. Stacey, I was in one of her classes, she said, imagine you've got a little puppy or a kitten and squash the kitten. So dark. It's a good one. Up and over, okay? You're thinking about the crown of the head and the tailbone moving in opposite directions. Inhale, peeling back up from the base of the spine to the top. Exhale, up and over. Keep that space between the ribs and the hips. Inhale, peel. Lovely. This is called our spine stretch forward. Head down, you want to look down towards the legs. Really reach the upper body forward. You're engaging the core. The lower back is staying where it is. You can feel a stretch in the lower back, mid back, peeling back up with the inhale. Getting that lovely articulation again. Last one. We're going to flop forward. Now you can let your hips hinge forward if that feels nice. You don't have to touch your toes. Just flop forward wherever your hands fall. Let the body go. Brilliant. Peel back up, taking your feet onto the mat. Then we're going to think about train tracks. So roughly your second toe, center of the knee and the hip bones. You might have lovely big hips, but maybe your bones aren't out to the side so much. You would feel for that, those two lines, okay? Hands behind the thighs. Inhale, lengthen up through the spine. Feel your sit bones again on the mat. As you exhale, C shape through the spine. You're looking down towards the knees, scooping into the abdomen. Exhale, scooping in. Imagine you're hooking your ribs now over your hips. We'll continue. Everything's going to be a layer here, so if anything feels like that's enough, just stick with that level. We're going to exhale, C shape, walk down the legs, rolling just off the sit bones. Inhale, and then exhale, head back to the knees, keep that C shape. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, C shape, and walk the hands back. Inhale into ribs, keep that abdominal engagement, and exhale, head back. Inhale, lengthen. That feels okay with the ribs and hands. Just to say, really important that we're not going like this. You're keeping the chest open. The C shape is here through the spine, okay? Exhale, rolling back. Helps to take the hands down by the hips to keep the spine or the chest open. Inhale. Really nice little pull on the abdomen. Head back to the knees. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And two more. Don't come back so far. I literally shaking. That's your abdominals working. Just don't come back so far. Make it a little bit less hard. Yeah. Lovely. Last one, and then we'll just come up with the legs. Oh. Lean back up. Hands in alignment with shoulders. Shoulders stabilized. We're going to exhale, peel back. Right hand comes down on the diagonal. What you're not going to do is this. It's not about reaching. You're going to keep the legs and the hips stabilized. You're twisting from here and then the shoulder. Inhale, move back up. Lovely. Keep your feet and your knees steady.
Then go left.
And then go left, yeah. Nice. Brilliant. One more right and left. Finish to the left and even. Come in to your side. It doesn't matter which side, as long as you can see me. I'll be facing different directions. And down to a nice long line. If anyone does want to block underneath the head, you can take one arm long or arm down, whatever feels better. Just look down towards your feet. Make sure that they're in alignment with the centre of the hip. Maybe a tendency to bring them forward. Naturally, when we lie down, especially if you've got curvy hips, your waist kind of falls into the ground and this top hip is going to come in towards the top waist. So we want to imagine we're standing, okay? Nice and engaged. Bring your tailbone down towards your heels, zipping up pelvic floor, lower abdominals towards, or ribs towards hips. Nice long line, and you're going to feel like you're balancing here already, okay? You can tap one finger down, but what I don't want is anyone leaning into the hand, okay? Lovely long line. You're going to take an inhale. As you exhale, point the toes, flex, point the toes, lift the leg. Inhale, flex the heel. Exhale, point and lift. Inhale, flex and lower. Got that little bit of engagement in the glute, a little bit of engagement at the core. Sandwiching your hips in place. Don't lift up so high, okay? Want to keep your hip in place. To lift any higher than that, you're going to have to move your pelvis, and we don't want to do that. So just keep it simple, keep it engaged. Pilates, a lot of the time people that haven't practiced it think, it doesn't look like you're doing very much, but when you actually do it and do it properly, it's difficult. Last one. And relax and give your hip a little rub if you need to. I'm going to slightly bend the bottom leg, lengthen the top leg in alignment with the hip. Inhale, circle forward, exhale, circle back. Hand on top hip, so you're not going to move the hip. Think about your legs stirring in the socket of your hip. A little bit harder to balance, but more engaged. Releasing. Sure, it's burning. I'm going to bend up both knees. Heels in alignment with the back of the pelvis. Look down to your knees and just see, are they level? If one knee's coming back, that means the hips coming back. If one knee's coming forward, that means the hips coming forward. Think about lifting up internally, pelvic floor, lower abdominals, and that lovely rib to hip connection. So the back of the spine is long. Relax your shoulders slightly, hand on hip. Your hand is here as a little policeman, okay? It's not going to let the hip move at all. Split the heels, toes together, exhale, lift the top knee. That hip doesn't move. Inhale, lower back down. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. Lots to think about. Abdominals stay drawn in. Hip does not move. Can you feel that little bit of engagement in the glute? Good. Relax shoulders. Last one. Stay in this position. Give your glute a little rub, your hip a little rub if you need to. Lift your feet off the mat now. Everything else is the same. Make sure you haven't let your bum stick out behind you. Down the tail, draw it down towards the heels, zip up through the front, abdominals, hand on hip, exhale, lift, and you're going to feel that engagement when the knee opens. If this feels okay, stay here. If you want to add on, you're going to open the knee, keep the leg as it is, point the toe, inhale, toes together, knees together. Exhale, lift, point, inhale, toe, exhale, knee, toe, toe, knee. Everyone okay? We're going to keep going until someone looks like, I want to see that someone saying that's enough. Okay, I think one more. Yeah, I see it. Bend the knee up. Take a little tap, tap, tap. You're going to lift up the top arm and rotate. You might want to lengthen out that top leg and flex the toes. It can be a little bit intense sometimes, a stretch after. Releasing and coming over to the other side. Nice long line. Zipping up, tailbone down towards the heels. Take a breath into ribs, exhale, point and lift. Inhale, flex and lower. Exhale, point and lift. If you're wobbling quite a lot, zip up pelvic floor or abdominals. That's going to be your stabilizer. And if you're still wobbling a lot, you can just slightly bend the bottom leg to help keep you steady. Last one. Take a little release for the hip. Bend the bottom knee. Extend the top leg in alignment with the hip. Inhale, circle forward. Exhale, circle back. Take your hand to your hip and just check that the hip isn't moving with the leg. Keep zipped up through the abdominals, ribs down. Soften shoulders. And release. Big roll tap. Bending up the knees, make sure heels are along the back of pelvis. Knees are stacked evenly, hips are stacked, zipping up through the abdomen. Hand on top, hips, split the heels. Toes together, exhale, knee opens. Hips stay still. Make sure you've got your hand on your top hip, releasing, no movement. Inhale, lift, exhale, lower. Nice long line, don't let the hip lift or move, okay? Doesn't matter if you don't get as much movement. Doesn't matter if you're not lifting as high. It's about how it feels and keeping everything in alignment. Get more engagement if you do it right rather than look for a bigger movement. Last one. Give a hip that can do a little bit of movement at the top. Lifting heels off the mat. Toes together. Exhale, knee lifts. Either staying here or opening the knee, pointing the toe. Inhale, toes together, knees together. Keep the hips steady. Keep zipped up, pelvic floor, lower abdominals. How's everyone doing? One more. Last one, last one. And release. Bend up your knee. Give the glute a rub and tap. Opening up your top arm, rotating back into a twist. Maybe lengthening out the top. Changing the breath now, we're going to start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Breathing down into the belly as you inhale. Releasing the arm, releasing the leg, rolling onto your front and coming back into child's pose or shell stretch. Reaching your hands out in front, your tailbone comes down towards your heels, brow onto the ground, just soften the body into the mat. Making sure that your hands are in alignment with your shoulders, walking your fingertips forward. Pushing the hands into the mat now. Can you feel your shoulders activate? You might want to lift your brow off the mat. Slightly lift the hips just so you can tuck under your toes. And then as you exhale, lift your hips high. We're coming into a down dog. Keep the backs of the legs bent for now, knees bent. Focus on your hands. You can walk through the backs of the legs. I feel really nice after all that leg work we did. Then we're going to gaze between the hands and walk the feet into the top of the mat, coming into a forward fold. Bend your knees generously, release your head, release your arms. If your belly's not touching your thighs yet, please bend the knees even more. Forward folds are about your back, not so much about your legs. If you've got tight hamstrings, you're only going to hurt your back if you're yanking on the backs of the legs, trying to stretch them too much. Breathing into belly, really let go of the head, the arms. Feel a little bit of length coming into the spine. Deep inhale as you exhale, push into your feet, feel the backs of the legs engage. We're going to roll up, scooping in through the abdomen. Feeling up one vertebra at a time. Last thing to lift is the head, and if you have the back of the mat, you can turn around. Come to the front, take a round of sun salutations. Feet are underneath hips, please spread your toes. Send your tailbone down to the ground. You want to lift up through the spine, open the chest. We want to keep the ribs coming down towards the hips. A little bit of engagement. Soften the shoulders. Inhaling, circling hands overhead. Exhale, fold and hinging at the hips. A little bit of engagement at the core, soft knees. Head down, arms down. Bend your knees generously, belly to thighs. Inhale, brushing fingertips up, shins lengthen through the spine, open the chest. Draw the shoulders back. Exhaling, hands down underneath shoulders, stepping back into a plank. Hands directly underneath shoulders, lengthen through the spine, push the ground away from you, sit up through the abdomen. Exhale, knees down, toes down, chest down between the hands, bend the elbows back. You want them to brush against the ribs, the waist. Inhale, scoop the chest through the hands, opening up. Roll your shoulders back, roll your elbows back. If you've got pinching in the lower back, you want to check pelvic positioning. Roll your pubic bone into the mat. Feel a little bit of engagement through the core, and you might actually get a little bit more extension through the spine. Inhaling and exhaling, push into hands, tuck under toes, down. 3 breaths here, pushing into the hands. Spread the fingers, make sure your first finger and thumb are really active into the ground. Don't worry about backs of the legs. Think about ribs to hips, think about lengthening the spine. Inhale, gaze forward, bring your left leg forward. If you need to walk it up a little bit or help it, please do. We're going to exhale, the right leg comes in to meet it and fold. Inhale, swallow diving. Reverse swallow diving, hands up overhead. Exhale, hands to heart center. Lengthen through the spine, feet in the earth. Here, we close the eyes, 1 breath, stillness. Inhale, circling hands up overhead. Exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway lift, lengthen over the chest. Exhale, hands down, step back to plank. Inhale, and then exhale, coming down either knees or straight down, bend the elbows back. Inhale, open the chest. Feel the bottom of the earth, spine long, elbows back, chest open. Exhaling. Down. Inhale, right leg steps forward. Exhale, left leg steps forward and fold. Inhale, circling hands up overhead. Exhale, anchoring hands down to heart center. Close the eyes, feel your feet in the earth. Feel a sense of grounding, the feet, the legs. Feel a sense of centering at your core. Openness, lightness in the heart, chest, the mind. 1 more round. Inhale. I'm going to try and move on the breath. Exhale. Inhale, halfway lift, open the chest. Exhale, step back. Take a breath in and then exhale, come down. Inhale, over. Exhale, down, over. 3 breaths. Adjust your down dog however you need to. Inhale, left leg forward. Exhale, right leg forward. Inhale, coming up. Exhale, hands forward. Breath and stillness, silence. Exhale, fold. Inhale, halfway lift over the spine. Exhale, step back. Inhale, hold. Exhale, come down. Inhale, open the chest. Exhale, lift the hips. And inhale, right leg. Exhale, left leg in and fold. Inhale, circle. slowly, thumbs to heart center, close the eyes, lengthen the spine, feet in the earth, centered at the core, open the heart. Releasing your hands as you exhale, your chin to your chest, and roll down, zipping up through the abdomen, feeling down, head heavy, arms heavy. Bend your knees generously so your fingertips can touch the mat. Lift your heels, bend your knees, sink your hips down. Take one hand behind you and help yourself down to lay. Coming into a comfortable laying position, turn off the lights. Taking a nice deep inhale through the nose. And as you exhale, sighing out of the mouth, let the body melt into the ground. Arms heavy, warm. Legs heavy, warm. Feel the lower back softening into the mat. Belly soft. Breath effortless. Let your lower teeth gently part from your upper teeth. Feel the muscles in the face relaxing. overhead, taking a full stretch. Body move away, whatever you like. And sliding your feet up onto the mat, knees up, or you could take your knees into your chest. Just very gently rock them side to side. Rolling all the way over onto one side, coming into the fetal position and pausing here for a breath. Noticing how your body feels now after your class in comparison to how it felt before you came into class. Notice how your energy feels and how you feel as a whole. Thinking about sealing in this connection to your body and sense of awareness of more subtle sensations and aspects. Taking a deep inhale through the nose. Keep the eyes closed if you can. As you exhale, slowly make your way up to a comfortable seat. With an inhale, circle hands above our head, giving thanks to the sky above us. Thumbs to brow center, honoring our own inner wisdom. To heart center, honoring our own inner peace and compassion for all. And bowing down to the earth beneath us, giving thanks. And thank you so much. Namaste.